What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me on the next video. Today we're going to be talking about a biography. It's a memoir of Jerry Weintraub, and it's with Rich Cohen, who is authoring it, I'm pretty sure. The biography is called When I Stop Talking, You'll Know I'm Dead. And before I get into that, I've had a couple questions, and people wanted to know what the mission statement is here, like what I'm trying to do with this channel, with these videos. And it comes down to something pretty simple. I make these videos to share the wealth of knowledge and the value of reading books and bring that into the spotlight. The most successful people are ones who read. Or there was a study done, the average CEO in America reads about 52 books a year, which is about a book a week. Maybe it's 50 books a year. Either way, they're still reading about a book a week every week. And these guys are making a lot of money, and we feel like, we're just regular people. We feel like we don't need to read. Like, they're there for a reason. It's not a coincidence that they are where they are. Elon Musk they said when he was a kid, he would read almost 8 hours a day. Warren Buffett just said that now that he's in his 80s, he can only get through about 400 pages a day. But when he was younger, he would read approximately 800 pages a day. Mark Cuban got a jet, and he mainly uses that jet so he can get away from everything else so he can go read. He says he reads about 4 hours a day. So these billionaires, these people with a lot of, that have done what they want to do with their life, that are doers, they read books. So before I go too far in depth about Jerry and his life, I want to tell you a little bit about what he's done. He was an agent, a manager, a promoter, a creator of shows, and a producer. He had done all of those things in his life. He took Elvis on tour. He basically made John Denver. He took Frank Sinatra on tour, which they were really good friends. He took Led Zeppelin on tour. There's a ton of stories about that. He produced Ocean's 11, a movie called Oh God, and The Karate Kid, which are all, this guy, he's done basically everything in Hollywood anyone could dream of. He was hung out, had crazy parties with famous people, had a mansion, made millions of dollars for himself. He was a very successful man. Jerry was the guy who got what he wanted because he went after it, because he was persistent with everything. Jerry said after, years of success, he said, when I believe in something, I'm going to get it done. When people say no, I don't hear it. When people say that's a bad idea, I don't believe it. When people say it won't happen, I pretend they're joking. And this mentality is what got Jerry to where he is today. A very successful man who got what he wanted in life. So now we're about to get into the book. I want to talk about biographies a little bit. I think everyone should try and get into a biography. They're just really useful for stories and real life application. And people, there's not biographies written about people who are average. It's always people who are above par. And I think taking that courage and using those stories to give yourself courage and empowerment is really useful. I really encourage you to read biographies, and I want to tell you how to read biographies because they're different. You can't read a biography like you can read a book like, one second. You can't read a biography like you can read a book like Unriveted. This is the science of why jokes make us laugh, movies make us cry, and religion makes us feel one with the universe. Because a biography is written like a story. And you can't just skim through it and pick what you want because you're not going to get all of it. You got to, I really find the come up the most interesting part of a book, how they got to where they are. That path to success is very enticing for me, and it really empowers me. So you have to read books differently. Biographies, you're going to need to read slow. It's going to take you a while. This book took me almost a week to read. But I read almost every page of it, and it's more of a story, and it's going to take you longer, but you might get a lot more from them, right? It's going to give you courage. It's going to give you, it's going to make you believe that the impossible are possible. These people achieved their dreams, so can you. Every single person's given 24 hours in a day. It's just what you make of it. We're going to be talking about Jerry Weintraub today, and I'll give you a little background on him. He was born in the Bronx. Young kid, he had to learn to hustle. Basically, he was selling, he was selling food, selling the products on the street corners by the time he was like 14 years old, and he kind of learned the grind. and that he graduated from high school, and he was about to go to college, but he got interrupted, and he decided to go to the Air Force. So I guess he was drafted. So he chose the Air Force over the Marines because he didn't think he could make it through the Marine training. So he was like, I think he was stationed in Alaska, and he went to Alaska, and he was, they don't know if they were doing much, but he ended up working at a menswear store because he wanted a coat that he saw in the window. And he worked his way up and ended up running the whole store. Jerry got back, and he knew college wasn't really for him, but he decided to go to an acting school, which is kind of funny. He decided to go and try to be an actor, and the teacher there was like, Jerry, you cannot act. You are awful. And so he decided that at that point that he wanted to help aspiring actors and performers. He wanted to help them by taking off the mundane pressures of doing business and like getting shows. He's like these performers have to become businessmen to get these things done, and they have to change in a way which takes away from what they're doing. He's like, I want to help them out and let them do what they love and be that kind of middleman between artists and shows. So he got a job at NBC, and he was just kind of like an office assistant. That's what I took away from it. He just did like little tasks that needed to be done around the office. And one night he got in a big fight with his girlfriend, and he decided to he was using the telephone at work. And he goes in the next day, and he was fighting for like a couple hours on the phone, on the line. And he goes in the next day, and they're all saying, Lou Westerman wants to see you. Lou wants to see you. And Lou was like the top dog at the time. He was like the president of the like MCA talent agency. So he worked with like all of the actors, and like he kind of brought them into NBC. And Jerry's like, oh crap, what does he want? And Lou calls him into his office. And he's like, Jerry, were you on the Watts line last night? He's like, yeah. He's like, I was trying to make a business call, and I listen in on whoever was talking, and I hear people fighting. He's like, do you talk to your mother that way? And Jerry was like, I'm so sorry, sir. And Lou was like, you know what? I really respect that you were honest with me. A lot of people would like to lie and tell me, some fable, but you stood up and you said what you had done, and I respect that. So Lou ended up taking Jerry under his wing and kind of mentored him in a way. And they worked together for a while. And I have a good quote from Lou. He said that, he's talking about the talent agency. He says, when the game changes, you have to change with it. The more you change, the more you risk in order to survive. And it gets harder and scarier the older you get. So they worked together for a long time. It was a good partnership. Jerry learned a ton about the talent agency and artists. And when it came time, Jerry got comfortable. And he walks in, he's like, Lou, I quit. And Lou was really upset. He had taught Jerry all these things. He wanted him to be kind of his sidekick, but Jerry wanted to do something of his own. He wanted to have his own talent agency, and he thought that he had learned enough from working with Lou that it was time to move on. So Jerry does it. He starts his own talent agency. He said it was a grind for a long time. He wasn't making much money, but then somehow he started getting connections, and he started using what he'd learned from Lou, and his business started growing. He eventually came across someone named Jane Morgan, and he said she was the most beautiful girl in the world. She was a performer, and everybody knew her. He said that they went to a Beatles show. The Beatles sang to Jane, and Jerry was just in love with Jane. And they ended up getting together. They were together for a long time, and Jerry's describing how he built his network, and he attributes a lot of his success to being with Jane because of all of these stars that she knew. He said that, a lot depends on who you know, who you can get to. If you have people who will open the door for you, literally and figuratively, you can make a pitch. It's in your hands from there. And I think this has to do a lot with networking. You just need to get to know the people. And I heard from a class recently that I was in, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. It's who knows of you. And a lot of people knew of Jane, and then when they think of Jane, they attribute, oh, Jerry's always with Jane. Jerry's now doing talent acts. That's what really got him to where he was. Like, that's what really propelled him forward in his career, in his talent agency. I found that really interesting. And Jerry was kind of talking about his rising success, and I have an awesome quote here. It's probably one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard, honestly. And Jerry says, "Life is strange. You travel far, do so much, but the people you look for at the end often are the same people you were looking for at the beginning." And this is true. You know, a lot of us want to find success, and sometimes you have to shed people off, but you're always going to be looking for the same people. Regardless of where you're at, you always want to be surrounded by people you love. You know, he says if you work with people you love, even the hard times turn into epic adventures. And yeah, take that as you will. But I really like that quote, you know. Life is strange. We do so much and travel so far, but the people we look for at the end are often the same people we were looking for at the beginning. So I have an awesome story to tell you that I picked up from this book. Jerry, he was pretty big at this time. He knew a lot of people, and he woke up from a dream, and the dream was Elvis Presley singing in Madison Square Gardens. And he woke up and he writes it down and just falls right back asleep, which is awesome. You know, I was talking in my earlier books about where good ideas come from, and it talks about serendipity, and it talks about dreams and how it can force odd connections. And Jerry had, he had an epiphany in his dream. So Jerry says, I have to take Elvis on tour. I have to. So he calls up Elvis's manager. His name was the Colonel. So he calls him up and he says, I want to take Elvis on tour. He says, no, Elvis doesn't do tours anymore. This is when Elvis was acting at the time. And Jerry he wouldn't take no for an answer. He persisted. Called him again. Same answer. He said he called him for 3 months straight, almost every single day, asking if he could take Elvis on tour. Jerry said that, he says, my plan had failed. But after calling him for so long, every single day, anytime the Colonel thought of taking Elvis on tour, he thought of me, managing it. And that's kind of where Jerry's success lied. Jerry has a nice quote. He said, the person who makes it is the person who keeps on going after everyone else has quit. This is more important than intelligence, pedigree, even connections. Persistence is the key. You know, he kept calling the Colonel, kept getting the same answer, no, no, no. And eventually, a year later, the Colonel calls him up. Says, you can take Elvis on tour. Jerry says, all right. He's like, show up tomorrow in Las Vegas with a check for $1 million. Jerry's like, done. Hangs up the phone, and he's like, where am I going to find $1 million? More money than I've ever seen at one time. So he starts calling everybody. Anyone he knows, any connection that he has, and everyone's just like, you're a madman. And finally someone calls him back and they say, I think I know someone that can give you money. This guy on the West Coast owns a ton of radio stations and he loves Elvis. And Jerry ends up getting his number, calls him up, he agrees to get him the check. Jerry flies to the West Coast, to California, gets the check, flies back to Las Vegas, and the next day he shows up with the Colonel, hands him a check for $1 million, and he was taking Elvis on tour. Jerry said that I've accomplished almost nothing the first, second, or third try. Almost every breakthrough I've ever had happened once everyone else had already left the field. And that, that sums up the story with taking Elvis on tour. So I have another story for you. It's with Elvis being on tour. And the first time he met Elvis, he shook his hand, and Elvis was a gentleman. He's Southern. And Elvis had one condition about going on tour with him. And Elvis was like, I don't want to play to a single show that's not sold out. Jerry's like, done. That's fine. You're the biggest star in the world. What could go wrong? And they go to the first show, And I'm calling this Jerry Weintraub, Elvis Presley, and 5,000 seats. So the first show they go up to the manager of the venue, and they want to get like the ticket count. They want to make sure it's sold out, and they had overestimated how many people were going to be there. And it turns out there were going to be 5,000 empty seats at the show. And Jerry's freaking out. He's like, what am I going to do? This is the first show of the tour, and he's gonna fire me. So Jerry goes to the colonel, and he's like, we have a problem. There's 5,000 seats that are going to be empty. And the colonel goes, no, you have a problem. Jerry's like, what do you want me to do? He's like, I want you to fix the problem. So Jerry's like, how am I going to get 5,000 people here on the dime? It was like 2 or 3 hours before the show. So Jerry starts thinking, and they had passed a jail on the way over. And Jerry decides to go to the jail. He slips the warden a couple, I don't know how much, he didn't say how much, slips him some money. He says, I need some of your inmates to help me out with something. And the warden's like, okay. And the next thing you know, Jerry shows up to the venue with 2 dozen inmates, and he has them all go unratchet 5,000 chairs and take them out for the first show of the night. And then after the show, they had to bring them back because Elvis was doing a show later. They bring them back, bolt them all back in, and and Elvis goes on, and he didn't realize that the show had not been sold out. And a lot of Jerry's success goes to that thinking on the feet mentality. I definitely would not have thought of that. I would have just fell over and died. But that courage, that wittiness is what made Jerry Weintraub. That's what made him all of his money. That's what made him his success. I find it really, really interesting and powerful, that persistence that Jerry has, and that's correlation with his success. He said that you have to be willing to walk away from the most comfortable perch simply because it is the most comfortable. Be uncomfortable. Strive to be different and speak out. Being uncomfortable is what makes changes in you. You can't make change while being comfortable, while being safe. You have to get out and do things that no one else would. That's how you separate yourself from the crowd. That's how you be different. Jerry Weintraub attributes 98% of his success to only 2% of his actions. And I want to simplify this a little bit more because there's a principle out there. It's called the Pareto Principle. And it basically states that 80% of your results come from 20% of the causes. And I want to think about this in a few different aspects, but essentially this is how you're going to be more productive and how you're going to be able to use your time more wisely. If you can really pull out this principle in everyday life, because it happens in social interactions, it happens in business, and it happens probably in the gym. 20% of the exercises you do result in 80% of your results. Let's think about it in business. They say that 20% of the customers result in 80% of the complaints that they get. This principle shows up over and over and over again in our lives. So how can you be more effective? Let's think about it in a social interaction. Let's say you have a group of 20 friends, and you try to delegate the same amount of time to each friend. But then when you really think about it, maybe only 4 or 5 of those friends result in the most happiness for you and the most benefit for you. So what you need to do is stop giving everyone equal amount of time. You really need to ration it out and spend the most time with the people who give you the most influence, who push you forward, who propel you, the A team friends. You have C team friends, B team friends, and A team friends. A team friends are the ones you really want. B team friends are okay. C team friends, you have to cut them out. People that are dragging you down, the people that are holding you back from what you want, and it sucks. Okay, it really sucks. But if you want to know how much money you're going to make, look how much money your friends are making, and you can get a pretty good estimate of what you're going to make. So surround yourself with people who are doers, and that's going to lead to a much better life. Maybe not, it's going to be hard to do it at first, but. So let's talk about this again. So attribute most of your time to those 4 or 5 friends, and you're going to be able to have so much more time to work on yourself, to meditate, to read, to go to the gym, and really develop yourself as a human and make yourself better. Let's think about it in business. Let's say I'm trying to market something, and I put up billboards, I do internet ads, I do newspaper ads, I do TV commercials, I do flyers, and I realize that I'm spending equal amount of time doing all of these things to market, and I realize that 80% of my results are coming from my internet marketing. So to make myself more efficient, cut everything else out. Spend more time on internet marketing because that's what works. That's what I'm getting 80% of my results from. So put all your eggs into that basket. Same with the gym. If you realize that a lot of your results are coming from these certain workouts, think about the 5x5 lift. These are all just the basic lifts. The squat, the bench press, the row, and the deadlift. Most of your results come from those compound movements. So focus on them. You don't have to do all these different resistance trainings and kill yourself with intense, workouts. Do what works. Be more efficient. I have one more example for you. Now I got this from watching a video, and he's a really smart guy. His name is Fight Mediocrity. He's on YouTube. You could check him out. But he brought in the example of let's say you have a girlfriend, and you come home from work, or you come home from school. We'll target this towards college students. You come home from school, and you're hanging out with your girlfriend, and you spend 4 or 5 hours hanging out with her. And then, you hear her complaining, "You don't spend enough time with me." And you look back at what you were doing, and most of your time was spent, watching TV, checking your phone, on the internet. And you really didn't spend as much time with her as you thought. Someone else could come in, spend 1 hour with her, take so much more efficient, but make that 1 hour all about her. And I feel like she would never complain. So this Pareto Principle shows up everywhere. And if you want to be really effective in what you do, you should abide by it, because even Jerry Weintraub, he said 98% of his success happened from 2% of the things he did. If you want to really push yourself forward, invest all in, kind of ration out your life, figure things out, and then you have to make adjustments. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this book summary. If you want to learn more, there's so many good stories in here. I don't have time to cover all of them, but there's so much in here that you could take. I'll just give you a couple of pointers. So to close things out, it's funny because now that I think about it, this video is the Pareto Principle. I've given you probably 80% of the core things. I've probably given you 80% of the knowledge in this book in 20% of the time. Probably less than that. But I really encourage you to get this book. It has a lot of great stories. You can read a little bit about Led Zeppelin on his tour, Elvis, Frank Sinatra, he's a character, and John Denver, and how Jerry Weintraub made John Denver who he was. He said that he found John Denver, he was making $70 a night, playing at a show, and Jerry made him a superstar. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Try to subscribe to my channel, like the video, share it with anyone, share it with people who you think would be interested in this kind of thing. Also, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want to see next and what you think I can improve on. Give me some positive criticism here. I'm trying to make these videos the best they can possibly be. Until next time, see ya.